Hello, I'm Joe Reed. You may recognize me from playing with Merle Haggard in the 1990s, or more recently with Ben and Noel Haggard. I've played for a lot of great folks in between. So if you'd like to hear a few stories about that, please stay tuned. We'll call this vlog number 1. In this video, I'll cover where I grew up, some of my earlier musical influences. In later videos, I'll cover leaving home, moving to California, playing with Merle Haggard and beyond. I grew up in St. Bernard, Louisiana. That's just east of New Orleans. I think it was a great place to grow up because of the diversity in musical styles. New Orleans is the birthplace of Dixieland jazz. Also bands like the Meters, who had a big impact on my playing later on. They were really funky. My dad, Hilton Reed Sr., he is from southwestern Louisiana. Actually, a little place called Iota. You'll have to look that one up on a map. It's pretty small. Some of my earliest memories of music are from family get-togethers at my grandma's house. And my dad's brother and sisters sang and played. And that's the area for Cajun music. Sometimes you'd hear the radio playing, and there was a program called the Passepartout, and they played nothing but Cajun music. I started playing acoustic guitar. I would have been about to turn 9 years old at the time. And my dad had changed strings on the guitar and didn't tune it up. He went off to work and came home that day, and the guitar was tuned, and he couldn't figure out why. So he detuned the whole thing and went to work again the next day and came home, and the guitar was tuned again. And he couldn't understand how that was happening. And what he didn't realize is that I had discovered a small 45 record with Your First Lesson, and the B-side was How to Tune a Guitar. So I listened to it, and luckily tuned his guitar by just listening to the record without popping any strings. And so he said, I guess I'll have to show you something now. The first 3 chords I learned on guitar were D, A, and G. The first song I learned was Amazing Grace. And I think Vacation Bible School was a couple weeks off. And so I worked on Amazing Grace for a week or week and a half, and showed up and brought my guitar with me to Poydras Baptist Church. And so I played Amazing Grace for the folks, and they seemed to enjoy it, so I was hooked. That's what I had to do. I pretty much slept with a guitar for the rest of the summer. And being a big country music fan, my dad, he started showing me a bunch of Hank Williams Sr. songs, and George Jones, Merle Haggard, Should Have Read That Detour Sign, just anything that he grew up with. And so that was my exposure to playing country music, and basically to getting started on guitar. Hilton chose pipeline construction as a way to make his living. And a few of the guys he worked with found out that I'd started playing. One guy sent home with him a bass guitar. So it wasn't long after I started playing acoustic guitar that I was playing bass as well. And I could start to hear inversions, and so I had a pretty solid foundation of hearing chord changes and how the root worked with it. And my dad, he would slow things down to where he would make me listen to the melody of the song and listen for the options, basically, of where the chords could go. So he did a bit of ear training with me early on, and that was great. One of the foremen at the company, his name was Robert Anthony. They called him Shag. And Shag was quite a character, and he introduced me to bluegrass music. He was a huge Cousin Oswald fan, and I believe he may have even worn a dent in his dashboard pretending to play resonator guitar. And he bought me my first mandolin. He wanted me to learn to play it so I could teach him. He had a dobro, and we'd go over on the weekends. And I learned a ton of bluegrass music just hanging out with Shag. He and his wife would take me out to bluegrass festivals. So that was a great time. Being a huge Emmylou Harris fan, he would play Emmylou Harris records, and that became a touchstone for me. I learned so much about harmony just listening to her records, and I loved her records. I loved the production even before I knew what production was. So that, like I said, that was a huge touchstone. My mom and dad's neighbors back then at the time were Lynn and Iris. And Lynn had a brother, Eddie. And Eddie passed away years ago, but Eddie became a great friend. And he had totaled a Corvette back then. So he needed someone to drive him to gigs, and he got in touch with Lynn, and they asked my mom and dad if they thought it'd be okay for me to go play at this club out in Slidell, Louisiana. So this place was something else. It was a cinder block building. The owner was the lead singer and the bouncer. It was really interesting. The owner's cousin sang from the mixing board, which gave you that little bit of delay, so that was always interesting. But yeah, Eddie got me hooked up with that gig. They needed a steel guitar player, and asked if I would audition to play steel, and I said, yeah, sure. And I had never even seen a steel guitar in person at that time, so we had to find a steel guitar. There was one music store around the New Orleans area that had a steel guitar in stock. It was made of particle board, so you can imagine the quality of this instrument. It was not that good, but I got it on a Tuesday and went and auditioned the weekend, and got the gig and kept the gig. And Eddie kind of broke me in, so I suppose that was my first paying job. And it was it was very intense. It was something. So I have Eddie to thank for that. So that's number one in the can, I suppose. Appreciate you tuning in and hanging with me on this one. In the next video, I'll cover leaving Louisiana and moving to California. So come back and see me. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.